Hi everyone, and welcome to this episode of Just Jimny. In this episode, we're going to be doing the long distance test on a Power Plus throttle controller. I thought it would be quite nice if we did a decent long distance test. We didn't do any 4x4ing on this one, so this might be of interest to the guys that's doing a lot of overlanding. So we organized the trip down to the Kalahari from Pretoria up to Kuruman, and it had a personal reason for me as well. So we went to surprise my father for his birthday, and that's why we drove down to Kuruman. So we did that on Friday last week. We set off from Pretoria. We filled up at Wonderboom petrol station that's close to my home. And we reset the counters. I didn't want to trust the Jimny's onboard computer for this, so we actually did it the old-fashioned way, and I zeroed my trip counter and took the amount of liters when we filled up and then reset the counter again. So our trip started off in Pretoria. We took the road towards Rustenburg. That's a small little piece of highway. I'd say it's about a 40-kilometer piece of highway, and after that we had highway works on it, so that was a normal 2-lane road again. And then we went on to Koster, Lichtenburg, Bissiesvlei, Sannieshof. In Sannieshof we stopped off to fill up again and reset the computers, and then from Sannieshof we went through to Delaravel, Vryburg, and then Kuruman. I'd say this is the normal N14 route. Anybody that's driven this road in the past couple of months will realize that this is not one of the best roads in South Africa. It's always busy. Between Vryburg and Kuruman you get a lot of wind. The wind was so bad at one stage, even with the speed control on. The wind was so strong that it pushed the car from 120 kilometers per hour to 110. And as the wind subsided, we could gain speed again. There's also a lot of trucks on this specific stretch of road, because everything that the small little towns along the road needs is trucked in. And then you've got a lot of mining activity going on in the Kuruman, Hartezell and Blackrock area. They mine manganese there. And all that ore is basically, I'd say about 95% of the ore is transported by truck. So you're either going to get a lot of trucks going in or a lot of trucks coming back on that stretch of road. So let's talk about the test and how I did it. I wanted to do a nice comparison between the normal mode and the economy mode, and see what type of consumption I get out of the eco mode on the throttle controller, the Power Plus. And I realized this is quite a tough test. This throttle controller, like I mentioned before, doesn't provide your car with more power. Another test I wanted to do is how much does the front runner roof rack affect the Jimny on road, and with its performance and fuel consumption as well. Now, like I said, this stretch of road is not a fun piece of road to drive. Guys, believe me, if you want to go to the Kalahari Transportier Park, this is a piece of road you're going to have to drive. There's not a lot of other options on how to drive there, and that stretch between Vryburg and Kuruman is bad. I try to utilize the speed control on the Jimny as often as possible, and I set that to 120 kilometers per hour. I did this for the eco mode and on the normal mode test. So be aware of that. In the stretches I could use it, I used it, and with the amount of traffic we had there, it's quite difficult to use the speed control, because you're going to drive for about 5 kilometers, then you're going to switch it off because you're stuck behind a truck. Then you need to slow down, gear back, and look for a gap to overtake that truck. We've got a small piece of video that shows you the type of road conditions we're driving. You can see there's a lot of shaking on the car. You can also see the amount of traffic that there is. That amount of traffic was between Sunny's and Kalahari. You'll actually, the guys that know the places will recognize Sunny's and Kalahari on the video as we're driving in and driving out. And that traffic was still light. As soon as we hit Vryburg, the traffic picked up. We probably, in that 140 kilometer stretch between Kuruman and Vryburg, we probably passed about 20 trucks and about 5 cars that were not traveling at speed, and the amount of traffic from the front made that more difficult. We had a massive wind as well, and I could feel the effect the front runner roof rack has on it. I'd say in normal, nice driving conditions, the roof rack would handle it fine, but in these windy conditions and the fact that you still need to overtake trucks and that type of stuff just to reach your end destination made it a very tough drive. I've driven this road for 20 years. I must say in the last 5 years, traffic has just boomed on it, and that's made it a very difficult road to drive and a difficult trip to do. And I think it's a tall order for the Power Plus unit to perform in this type of conditions, because it doesn't give you extra power. It just smooths out your throttle control. So let's see what the stats did. Let's quickly have a look here. I've got it written down in my book, but you guys will see a nice little graphic of what happened. So from Pretoria to Sunny's Half, we did about 304 kilometers. The amount of fuel I used in that stretch was about 27.9 liters. That comes to a fuel economy of about 10.92 kilometers per liter. And then on from Sunny's Half to Kuruman, you're going to see a massive reduction, because that's in that portion between Vryburg and Kuruman, that 140 kilometer stretch, and we did 269.2 kilometers and we used 27.3 liters. So we had a reduction there, and it gave us an average of 9.8 kilometers per liter. So you could see how much the environmental effects and the traffic affected the fuel consumption in the Jimny. The car wasn't loaded very heavily. We had a cooler box, suitcase, the camera equipment, and a few other stuff in the car. We had nothing on the roof rack. I would say with the guys that have rooftop tents on, you're going to get, in the same conditions, I see your consumption going down to 8 to 7 kilometers per liter on this one. Then we drove back on a Tuesday. It's a nice quiet day. We still had some wind. While on our way from Pretoria to Kuruman, I drove it in eco mode. On our way back, I drove it in normal mode. So on the normal mode, between Kuruman and Sunny's Half, again, that bad stretch of road with a lot of traffic and loads of wind, we did 269.6 kilometers and we used 27.3 liters of fuel, which gave us a 9.87 kilometers per liter. Then from Sunny's Half onto Pretoria, we did 306.8 kilometers and we used 28.43 liters of fuel, which gave us an average of 10.79 kilometers per liter. So that shows you how much road conditions and environmental wind, that type of stuff, can affect your car. And like I said, we weren't heavily loaded. The roof rack was empty again, and that gave us a full average from Kuruman back to Pretoria of 10.33 kilometers per liter. This is a very true reflection I think. I checked my trip computer and the average consumption that gave us, and we averaged out at about 11 kilometers per liter, which is not bad. I zeroed that, just for the guys asking, I zeroed that as well when we started this round trip. So in a 1,000 kilometer round trip, what's my feeling on the Power Plus throttle controller? I think I gave it a tall order with this trip. It was a very difficult road to drive, but these are the type of conditions you get when you go in school holidays, high traffic. Over December, unfortunately, the wind always blows about from Lichtenburg up till Inkuruman. You're going to have wind blowing there. I don't know why. It may be the type of topography they have there. There's a lot of farms around, so you don't have a lot of trees that's breaking the wind in that portion of road. So I'd say between the two, the eco mode and the normal mode, eco mode gave us 10.39 as an average kilometers per liter, and the normal mode gave us 10.33. So the only conclusion I can come to is the car is already performing at almost its top performance. So at 120 kilometers per hour, we are at 3,500 revs. So the engine is working really hard, not at peak performance, but it's working hard at 3,500 revs, and you're gonna, the throttle doesn't have such a big impact on this long road test, because it can only smooth out your accelerator that much and prevent hard accelerating where it can. But as soon as you're stuck behind a big truck, you're going to reduce your speed to about 80 or 60 kilometers per hour, then have a look to see if you have a gap to pass. You're going to gear back to fourth gear and overtake that truck as quickly as possible. So with the busy road conditions, sometimes you were stuck behind a truck for about 20 minutes to 30 minutes before you had a gap to overtake them safely. So I'd say the Power Plus unit performed quite well. For this type of road driving, it doesn't show a massive saving, but I can say in the eco mode, if you have a nice quiet road, not too much side winds, basically perfect driving conditions, you are going to see a much bigger gap between your normal mode and your eco mode. And I think as soon as you go onto gravel as well, the eco mode is going to be such a nice mode to drive in, because you're driving on a road where you're basically playing around with your accelerator the whole time for the different obstacles in your road. So as you have big humps and bumps and ruts you're driving through, you're going to take your foot off the throttle a lot more and then accelerate again. And I think it's that type of driving that should give you good fuel consumption in the economy mode. Overtaking trucks in the economy mode was a really good experience as well, because I didn't have to go out of economy mode to overtake trucks safely. I would just floor it, and the economy mode, as soon as you go over that halfway mark, it gives you normal acceleration. So overtaking trucks was quite easy. I didn't have to switch over, and as soon as it was safe, I would just floor the Jimny and it would pass the trucks quite easily. You will have a look at that piece of video that we took between Sonnieshof and Delarevel. Study that video a bit and you can see there's a few trucks I've overtaken, a few cars I overtook there. That was all in economy mode. And that also gives you a bit of idea of the type of terrain we drove over. Some of the video is a bit shaky there, but that's how shaky those roads are. I say thank you to the Tough Dog suspension once again, because it performed excellently on those bad roads. There's a lot of places where they fix potholes and they're starting to repair the roads. It's much better not having potholes and just having a road that bounces around a bit. But the suspension worked hard. I realized that there's a big influence from the front runner roof rack. There's definitely a consumption change on that as well. I think the front runner affected me more because of all the wind we had. And this was quite strong wind. You know, it was blowing buckies over the center line. You could see the big trucks were also struggling in those crosswinds, and the Jimny handled it well. It made me a bit tired because you're constantly fighting the wind, and as soon as you're overtaking a truck, you're fighting the wind again because you were in the slipstream of the truck. And final thought, I think the Power Plus throttle controller handled this excellently. I think if you in a situation where you need to overtake trucks and that type of stuff quite quickly and you don't have a lot of gaps opening up for you, switching that to maybe the racing mode or the auto mode will even improve that. But if you want to keep it in economy, it's fine. It handles everything fine. First, try it out, do a test and see how it performs before you start overtaking 2 trucks at a time, or a truck and a car at that time. And always realize you need to gear down to that 4th so you've got enough power to pass it. Another thought is, guys, if you have load on your roof and on your roof rack, these crosswinds are going to affect you massively. If you're planning a trip down that way, be cognizant of that. Keep it in mind. You're going to have heavier fuel usage, and those roads are not as nice as the roads we have in Gauteng and around. They're trying to maintain them, but with the amount of traffic they carry, they get rutted, they do get potholes. They're not always in pristine condition, but that's why we drive 4x4 cars. We want cars that can handle these conditions. And with the Power Plus throttle controller, I think is an excellent addition to your car for overlanding. It's going to have its benefits on the in the correct conditions. So again, thanks a lot for watching this episode. I see our views and our subscribers are coming up nicely. We still need all these guys. It doesn't help us a lot if you just watch the videos. Subscribing to the videos also has its benefits. As soon as it's loaded, if you click that little bell, you'll get notified as soon as the next video is loaded on. If you subscribe, you can comment on our videos. I love the comments the guys have given us so far. A lot of positive feedback, a lot of good information. Everybody is sharing on these comments. So go and check them out as well. But subscriptions are currently really important to us. It's going to help us to create more content for you guys and giving more information that you guys can go and sit and think about and see if it's going to work for you and your Jimny. So thanks again for watching, and just Jimny on.